Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the final Native Voices in STEM seminar of the spring 2020 semester at University of Arizona. I would like to thank the co-sponsoring programs, the University of Arizona Sloan Indigenous Graduate Partnership, and the Indigenous Food, Energy, and Water Security and Sovereignty programs co-sponsor our Native Voices in STEM seminar. We have an esteemed speaker today, and I would like to introduce my PI to introduce our speaker. Please welcome Dr. Carletta Chief. She is Associate Professor and Extension Specialist in Environmental Sciences. Thank you, Dr. Chief.
Thank you, Cara. Thank you so much for putting the seminar series together. And we're very pleased to have Dr. Martín Ahumada be our featured speaker today for Native Voices in STEM. Dr. Ahumada is the president of the San Carlos Apache College, which is a newly emerging tribal institution of higher learning in San Carlos, Arizona. In his extensive career, Dr. Ahumada has most recently served as the provost and then as the interim president of Diné College, which is the first tribal institution of higher learning in the United States. Dr. Ahumada was instrumental in the grant writing phase of the University of Arizona Indigenous Food, Energy, Water Security, and Sovereignty training program, and he contributed important ideas to IndigiFuse. Dr. Ahumada forged the partnership between U of A and Diné College Land Grant Office, headed by Benita Litson. Benita Litson, who's the director of the Land Grant Office at Diné College, said this about Dr. Ahumada. Through his inspiring leadership and understanding and appreciation for building a constituency in the communities and the identification of programs based on urgent needs became the new platform for strengthening the Diné College land grant system. Dr. Ahumada used Diné College's strategic goal of nation building as this platform, promoting the fact that the land grant programs at Diné College were essential to institutionalizing its land grant mission. Because of his visionary leadership, Diné College is now moving to building agricultural hubs across the Navajo Nation to support the agricultural lifeways of the Diné people. Dr. Ahumada's inspiring and brilliant guidance has pushed Diné College's land grant office and its programs to now implement large-scale nation-building strategies to support Diné agriculture. Dr. Ahumada has received his bachelor's degrees from Carleton College in Minnesota and his master's and PhD degrees in higher education from U of A in Tucson. He later served as professor of higher education at U of A and as the president's liaison to Arizona Community Colleges, director of international intercultural development. He then served as the first CFO for Eastern New Mexico University Ruidoso, where he established campus-wide Office of Business Affairs. He also served as faculty member with Harvard University's higher education program. And he was a guest faculty member with the Harvard University John F. Kennedy School of Government. He's also served on numerous state, federal, and international policy development and advisory committees to steer the direction of higher education research and policies. We're pleased to have Dr. Ahumada here with us today and as our featured speaker for Native Voices in STEM. Please welcome Dr. Ahumada.
Good morning, everyone. As we say in Apache land, Dijigonste, Dagote. It is a pleasure to be here. I am ennobled by the invitation to be part of this magnificent speaker series that you have in Native Voices in STEM. I am flattered by the invitation. I'm also flattered by the wonderful introduction that I just received from Dr. Carletta Chief. I want to thank Kara Duncan as well for all of her hard work, her meticulous follow-up to ensure that this would take place. Thank you, Kara. You were a gem to work with. I also want to take a moment to share with you that I recall very vividly and very fondly the great meeting that I had with Dr. Chief and with my director of the land grant office at Deneen College to discuss the proposal that she was pursuing with NSF on a magnificent set of initiatives related to food production, water, holistic health, and so on. I was just delighted beyond belief. Kind of jealous that she wasn't someone I was recruiting to the college or doing that initiative directly with us. But I was delighted to learn that you received this grant, Dr. Chief, and more than anything, I am very impressed with everything you have done with this project. In the last few years, it's been magnificent. I applaud you. You have done a lot that is of great benefit to all Native peoples. I did want to say that one of the things that really excited me when I saw the proposal and I pondered what is it that you're really capable of helping bring about in Native country is that it touched on the rich tradition, the rich way of life that is so, how can I say, central to the Navajo Nation and to the Apache Nation that I work for now. Just the ranching and farming way of life is so significant. We can all play a very important and active role in the global economy through food production. We can take care of our own people. We can create sustainable jobs in that area. And so I must say you work in a terrific field, and I am very happy for you, for the U of A, and for all the work that you have been doing with this wonderful project. I want to thank you for inviting me to be part of this series one more time because I feel ennobled. I really do. I will do my best to give justice to providing a glimpse, if you will, of what has been a rather strange journey in some ways. My career is unlike any other in the many different directions it took. I never imagined I would be doing the many different things I have done in the last 40 years at the international level, at the national level, working with the premier state of state system of higher education, the California system, playing historic roles with them, being a faculty member with my own alma mater, the University of Arizona, and also with Harvard, and then having the blessing of working for at least 4 or 5 different tribal communities and serving as provost and president of Deneen, and now being the founding president of San Carlos Apache College, the newest, youngest tribal institution of higher learning in America. At any rate, glad to be here. I hope to do justice to this quick review. Let's get started. Thank you. Pictured on this slide are the 5 members of our college's Board of Regents. Rebecca Swift, who is the chair, Dorina Thompson, who is the vice chair, and the other 3 members of our board, Roberta Patton, Jason Stanley, and Dr. Philip Stevens. As an absolutely essential requirement in creating a new TCU, our college is blessed with regents who can understand and truly appreciate the world of academia, and that includes its unique culture and complex workings. They also bring outstanding academic credentials plus extensive and professional experience and expertise in the educational arena. All of our regents have earned graduate degrees, some having earned more than 1 graduate degree. Our regent with a PhD, Dr. Philip Stevens, is a remarkable university faculty member. Most observers of our young college's amazing journey are rather impressed we already are offering 6 associate degree programs, plus 2 certificate programs. These are listed on the left-hand side of this PowerPoint slide. Keep in mind, we're not even 3 years old as we opened the college in August of 2017. The photo on the top shows me with our tribe's chairman, Terry Rambler, who might very well be the most genuine and enthusiastic supporter and fan of our new college. In my many years of working with leaders throughout the U.S. and in other countries, I have rarely met other individuals who possess Chairman Rambler's abundant and unique leadership gifts. His truly visionary, bold, intelligent, and ethical leadership has made all the difference in our ability to rise to the daunting challenge of creating a new institution of higher learning from scratch and with very limited resources. The bottom photo shows some of our college's great faculty and staff members, who were being visited by federal officials evaluating our achievements and plans. I think this photo reflects the very good spirit, teamwork, and enthusiasm of the individuals who are helping to create and run this amazing young college. You will see in this slide a map created by AHEC, the American Indian Higher Education Consortium, that really is a nice backdrop. The TCU movement in America began half a century ago with the establishment in 1968 of Navajo Community College in the Navajo Nation. It later changed its name to Dene College. I had the privilege of serving as provost and later as interim president of Dene College. You will see in the map that is shown on this slide that there are 37 TCUs in the country, with San Carlos Apache College being the youngest of them. They all are organized under the collective spirit and unified voice of the American Indian Higher Education Consortium, AHEC. If you look at the map, you will see where the different TCUs are located. Many of them run down the center of the country, if you will, what it's called, I guess, the Midwest Belt. And the state with the largest number of TCUs is Montana. Many are surprised about that. It has 7 independent TCUs. You will see that in the Southwest, we have the first TCU in California Tribal College. It's just getting started. After all these years, it is only now getting started. In Arizona, we have Dene College, San Carlos Apache College, and Tohono O'odham Community College. We also have a campus of the Navajo Technical University in Arizona that has just recently been created. And so that, technically speaking, means we have 4 TCUs in Arizona. Hopefully all of you will have an opportunity to learn more about the fascinating history of the TCU movement. I would encourage all of you that are really interested in learning more about this movement to take the course offered by Dr. Mary Jo Fox at the University of Arizona, properly entitled the TCU College. You will learn a lot about the history, the workings, how the experiences of TCUs from this course. Dr. Mary Jo Fox is arguably the most knowledgeable person about this field. And so take advantage of it. You have these courses available to you in the American Indian Studies Department. In this slide, I address the distinctive mission, work, and identity of tribal institutions of higher learning. TCUs are very complex organizations with tremendous responsibilities that, in all candor, easily eclipse those of traditional or mainstream colleges and universities. In addition to being thought leaders for their communities, TCUs valiantly embrace their tough but essential role as catalysts for nation building. Let's briefly reflect on some of the meanings of nation building from a TCU perspective. First, nation building requires giving every member of the tribe a real opportunity to maximize her or his aspirations and God-given talents to build and sustain meaningful careers and lives, and to contribute to the overall well-being of the tribe. Next, nation building requires building strong and healthy families capable of good parenting and role modeling for their community. Also, nation building requires the construction of good homes, schools, stores, hospitals, and clinics, roads, parks, and business and government buildings. It is also a cornerstone of nation building in Indian higher education to create successful small businesses and the forging of entrepreneurs. And if that weren't enough, nation building also requires college-level teaching and research to meet head-on the most urgent economic, environmental, health, and social advancement needs of the tribe. TCUs are also stewards of the history, the culture, the traditions, values, and language of their people. No other institution in the world has the right and responsibility to preserve and diffuse a tribe's language except their TCU. And language is fundamental to a native person's self-identity. See the comment from Dr. Richard Littlebear, president of Chief Dull Knife in Montana. As I point out in this slide, the meaning of language is captured powerfully by Dr. Richard Littlebear. As noted in my quote, he learned to read and write in the Cheyenne language, which is his first language, and he considers this to be, quote unquote, his greatest academic achievement, much greater than earning a doctorate degree from Boston University. TCUs are cultivators of global citizens who are anchored in the thought, the philosophy, the values, and the language of their community. Contemplate for a second the enormous responsibility of having to do everything that all other collegiate institutions do, but also having a strong transfer function and the capacities for community-centered research. Imagine having to prepare members of the community to be anchored in their tribal identity and language while also being active participants in the global society and economy. I always mention how important it is to have the dual mission of anchoring our students in their tribal identity and language while preparing them to be global citizens. TCUs are also pathways to finding and embracing one's purpose in life. And let me emphasize that term, purpose. It's so critical for everyone who wishes to teach or study at a tribal college. They're not only pathways, but they're also a way back home. See the quote on this slide from Dr. Cynthia Lindquist, which I will just paraphrase. I believe that the Creator prepared a path for me that is my life's journey. That path called on me to come home, to be the president of our college. Elders asked me to come home. For me, it was also the right time and the right opportunity in my path to contribute to a better way of life for my relatives. What a wonderful quote from this outstanding leader in the TCU landscape. Slide number 6. What I myself find of particular value and significance are the spiritual foundations of TCUs. Pictured on this slide is the NA College's commencement ceremony, which is launched by a traditional blessing provided by an invocation leader. In this case, it was Avery Denny, a faculty member at the NA College. I am in the backdrop of this photo, and I must admit that was one of the most wonderful and moving experiences I think I've ever had in my 40-year career in higher education, to be part of this blessing, which I had never witnessed or experienced working for non-TCUs. On this slide, I quote two amazing Native leaders, Cheryl Crazybull, president of the American Indian College Fund, and once again, Dr. Cynthia Lindquist, who speaks so eloquently about the spiritual foundations of tribal colleges and universities. Let me read the quotes I include in this slide. First, from Cheryl Crazybull. At tribal colleges, it is impossible to separate who we are as tribal citizens and spiritual beings from the institution's work as post-secondary education providers and community builders. Further down on the slide, you will see the quote from Cynthia Lindquist. What ties TCUs together is that the core of each institution is rooted in spirituality and the restoration and revitalization of those qualities, values, and behaviors that represent our identities. I will forever remember the blessings I experienced as NA College's president of taking part in very special spiritual private ceremonies. They impacted me in ways that I could never describe. And I always say that that is one aspect of a TCU that I would never trade for anything else. You will see on this slide a picture of my father with his 3 young children. I am the youngest one. I'm sitting on his lap. I believe I was only 4 months old. Like so many other American journeys, mine had rather humble beginnings, with my family having little hope or prospects for someday forging a better life, especially with the misfortunes that awaited us as poor immigrants to America, and which would have a powerful impact on my life and leave an indelible mark on my own identity. Yet I proudly share these personal reflections with you because they provide testimony to the transformative power of the human spirit to overcome great hardships and other forms of seemingly crushing adversity in one's life. I learned to respect and value this human spirit from my father, who passed away only a few weeks ago at the age of 98. A picture does speak 1,000 words, doesn't it? And the picture on this slide of my dad with the three of us says so much about the deplorable and hopeless conditions we lived in. My father was sought after by the farming industry in America, which needed experts in farm equipment like him. But shortly after immigrating to America, we lost our mother, and I was only 4 years old at the time. And my father began his very hard life as a single parent. I learned from my father the hard and priceless lessons that would get me through life somehow, and that would guide me to this very day. Among those lessons were the power of hope, that hope can be greater than life itself, the power and meaning of faith, the courage to face adversity and to chart my own course, not allowing anyone to deny me my goals or dreams as a human being with dignity. I learned from my father incredible resilience, self-determination, the intrinsic rewards that come from a spectacular work ethic. I can never thank my father enough for having instilled in me these different attributes. My father experienced endless discrimination throughout his life, but he endured it all graciously, with a conviction that his reward would come from providing all of us a better life. Shortly after we lost our mother and being new immigrants to America, we found ourselves living in a car, enduring hunger and loneliness, and in sometimes total isolation. But my father never gave up, and he never abandoned us. I learned so much about resilience and hope from him. This slide shows me in kindergarten with a large public school system, Tucson Unified School District, in which any child could easily be left behind. I know I was left behind. And looking back at my entire K-12 education, I marvel at the miracle that I would go on to achieve anything meaningful in life. Indeed, the marginalization and alienation that I would experience, plus the paralyzing effects of living in poverty and with a single parent, ultimately led me to drop out of high school before my senior year. But I never lost hope or faith that I was meant for better things, and I was open to embracing the kindness of good Samaritans who would cross paths with me, or who had a positive view of me and what I could achieve. You know, we all can overcome everything in life if we have faith in ourselves and if we are open to the good people who want to help us along the way. In spite of the mocking that I got from a good number of teachers and others who worked at the schools, there were some kind folks who submitted applications to college on my behalf. And believe it or not, I was ultimately accepted at some really good colleges. This included institutions like Earlham College, Occidental College, Carleton College, Trinity. I was accepted to all of them. And so I went on to college, having completed only my junior year. But I must confess, I was very poorly prepared for college life. On this slide, you see this scrawny, lost little kid. That is me in kindergarten. Don't make fun. But I did want to point out that, like many individuals who got started in their education in our large public schools, we really were not given an opportunity to feel good about who we were, to be able to feel like we were valued, to have our identity, our culture, our language validated. And so from the very beginning, it was an uphill climb for me in feeling positive about the attributes that I brought to the school about who I was. Even the fact that I did not know a single word of English was made so much harder for me. And that is not what we should be doing in our schools. But that was the way it all got started for me. That's why I wanted to share this photo with you and begin with my first year in America's public schools. This slide shows me being inducted into the Hall of Fame of Pueblo High School, the school that in some ways had given up on me, did not have high hopes of me even completing high school, let alone moving on to become a college graduate. Just this past November, I was inducted into the Hall of Fame. I was very fortunate to have all of my regents and some of my colleagues present at this event. It just goes to show the big leap from that scrawny little kid for whom very few expectations were held, and what I went on to achieve in my career, to ultimately being embraced by the school system that had anticipated I would never achieve much in life, let alone in my professional career. But I'm very proud to be able to share with you this photo and the fact that, you know, just very recently I was inducted into this prestigious group of individuals who are part of the Hall of Fame. Includes scientists, physicians, attorneys, judges, and so on. Just goes to show that we cannot define ourselves or our ultimate achievements or what we can achieve based on what we are told or led to believe in our early years in school. This slide includes a picture of me as a senior at Carleton College. As a freshman at this elite private college, I was unabashedly told by far too many faculty that I was not, quote-unquote, real college material, and that I had 1 in a million chances of completing even 1 year at Carleton College. My perseverance at Carleton awakened in me a sleeping giant. I saw myself as a citizen of a world in which huge injustices have long existed, and in which many people in all corners of the world were marginalized or dehumanized in worse ways than I had been. That was very revealing to me. By the beginning of my senior year, just 3 years after I arrived at this place where I was told I would never make it through the first year, I had made amends for a lifetime of inferior public schooling, of poor preparations to tackle a collegiate journey that was so daunting. I had changed the minds and hearts of everyone at the college. Also included in this slide to the right is a photo of Mary Jo Tippecanoe Fox. I think that what Mary Jo and I went through together in this program enabled us to discover a lot about who we were and what we could achieve. Mary Jo, thank you for having been there at the same time and for providing me the kind of camaraderie that is so essential for someone going through the very difficult journey of going through graduate school. It was not an easy program. We endured a lot. Nothing came easy for us, but we discovered that we had the wherewithal to succeed in achieving not only a master's degree, but a doctorate degree from the #1 program in the field in the country. In this slide, I identified 3 places where I worked in my career. They were outstanding jobs. They were pioneering roles for me. I'm very proud of what I achieved. I'm also very grateful for the opportunity that the Divine Creator provided me to work at these organizations. I look back with amazement and humor at how governors, state legislators, and senior staff would react to meeting me for the first time and hearing from me some really seasoned advice on what they could do differently or better to improve access and diversity in their systems of higher education, to make their institutions more efficient, to enhance their tuition policies, their student aid policies. When they would see this young, brown-skinned individual speaking to them about these things, I knew they were a little taken aback. They didn't expect someone like me. My recruitment to the California Post-Secondary Education Commission and the ability or the opportunity that I was given to lead some of the most complex and influential work carried out by this commission was made possible by key players in the political system of the state. Among them were Willie Brown, Speaker of the House, and of course the chair of the Education Commission. At the bottom of the slide, I make reference to being a faculty member at the University of Arizona. I was actually recruited to join the faculty by then Dean Gary Fenstermacher, who believed that someone like me was really needed in his college and in my old department of higher education. And my colleagues there at the time embraced me warmly, and I'm grateful for that. One of the highlights of the 2 years that I served on that faculty was having some extraordinary Native American students work closely with me. I was my primary advisor, among them Ken Pepion, Will Henderson from the Blackfeet tribe in Montana, and others who made me feel really special. I felt right at home, teaching, mentoring, advising Native Americans who were now pursuing careers in my own area of higher education administration. How wonderful it was to be an advisor to them. On this slide, you see a photo of me teaching a class at Harvard University. I had the privilege of being invited to join 5 outstanding experts in higher education. At any rate, my Harvard years were really a wonderful opportunity for me to validate, everything that I had to contribute, everything that I had to offer in a very elite, very high caliber setting. And I must say that I held my own. I'm very proud looking back at the manner in which even the most seasoned and well-established scholars easily embraced me as someone that they wanted to emulate in some instances, or somebody whose thoughts or critical thinking or writing, research, it was something that they really looked up to, or they found to be extraordinary. And I didn't think I deserved that kind of a recognition, but I did receive it. And we're better to be recognized for doing extraordinary work than at a major university like Harvard. At any rate, I will always look back at those times as one of the most powerful periods of self-discovery, self-legitimation that I would go through, and it set the stage for me to go on and do more work internationally, because I must admit that what Harvard did to me was make me a global player. I found myself overseeing postdoctoral Fulbright programs from leaders from different countries, supervising training seminars for delegations of university and leaders and ministries from China and South America. And it was, if you will, a place where somebody like me, who grew up speaking more than one language, having to balance 2 different cultures, the one I was raised in and then the dominant culture of America, became an asset for the kind of global role that Harvard required of me and wanted of me, and I was acknowledged for that all the time. I was able to, of course, chair international forums on the social role of higher education and on philanthropy, and they set the stage for a lot of the thinking that I would, the new thinking that I would carry out in my field for the rest of my career. On this slide, I make reference to the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, which I joined shortly after having served as a Harvard faculty member, as the association's first ever vice president for education and research. I had the privilege of having had a long-standing relationship with the vast majority of the board of this national association, and I also did some pioneering work in areas that tapped some of the unique experience and expertise that I have been able to acquire up to this point In my role as Vice President for Education and Research, I was able to assess, evaluate, and help improve the institutional capacities of what is referred to as HSIs, Hispanic Serving Institutions. I'll talk in a minute. I'll say more about some of the problems that I encountered or conflicts that I had with the concept of a Hispanic Serving Institution. But for now, what I do want to point out is that one of the reasons why I did accept the offer to join HACU, that's the acronym, for the association, was because the Educational Testing Service had reached out to HACU to develop and carry out a very special partnership in which we would be training some of the better thinkers, policymakers in the country. And they wanted somebody that could take 12 of the leading scholars, Hispanic scholars, some of which were tenured professors, others were presidents of universities, and invest the enormous resources of ETS in developing policy frameworks and enabling them to help shape the discourse on assessment, on equity, and so on. And I was, in fact, the ETS in some ways influenced the offer that was made to me so that I could oversee that project. And I worked very carefully with the Educational Testing Service. I met extensively with the researchers. I worked a lot with the board of ETS. Many folks are not aware that ETS is arguably the most influential and probably the wealthiest nonprofit organization in the entire world. Their endowment alone surpasses that of all the members of the Ivy League. As I always noted to everyone I worked with, and I was working with the White House, with Congress, with state government leaders, and the university presidents throughout the country, that there was a natural kinship between Americans that define themselves as Hispanic and those that define themselves as Native Americans, with many of them having a dual identity. There are so many Hispanics who use both identities. They have a major background as Hispanics and as traditionally defined, but they're also Native Americans. And so I promoted, very, very aggressively that HACU develop a very special partnership with AHEC and the TCUs, which in my judgment were the real McCoy, the real deal when it came to a minority serving institution. In other words, from long ago, I've maintained a conviction that TCUs have it in their DNA. From the beginning, they were designed to serve the indigenous communities. They were designed to help grow and enrich tribal communities. They were designed to meet the unique needs of Native Americans. On this slide, I make reference to the International Center for Higher Education and Philanthropy, which I actually designed when I was on the Harvard faculty to be able to carry out much more of the national leadership work that I was encouraged to do or asked to do, but also to do a lot more of the international work that I got started with at Harvard, and which I wanted to be able to focus on a bit more. And so this nonprofit 501c3 was established in 1995. I served as its founding president for many years, and it did a tremendous amount of training, if you will, especially for Native American groups, on nonprofit management, on financing, on cross-cultural communication, and so on. We designed and offered through this center, and where I was the chief instructor, although I drew on a good number of outstanding people who joined me in teaching in these seminars, were the policy-making seminars, where we covered the different stages of the policy-making process. And I had a good number of very young Native Americans who were just getting into the careers as state legislators, as members of Congress, and so on. So it was wonderful opportunity to provide these rising stars a good framework from which to understand how the policy-making process comes about, what are the factors that drive that process, how do you evaluate good or sound public policy, and so on. The other important work of this center was doing, and they worked with Harvard very closely, they were my partners again, holding a couple of international summits where we looked at the social change, the role that higher education and philanthropy play in social change all over the world, and laid the foundation for major projects on philanthropy, with the idea that one thing that is really needed to help transform people or societies and their communities was to optimize the power of the philanthropic spirit that all human beings possess. There's so much that could be done to improve things around the world, to bring about more justice, more fairness, by making sure that everyone that has an ability to contribute in some way, however small, does it, and that they are aware that it is significant. We also wanted to make a call to the major philanthropists of the world that they ought to be more active in taking charge of the big agendas to move things forward, and not just rely on corporate and government sectors to promote the kind of equities that are needed, the kind of justices that need to be addressed in different societies around the world. Those blueprints are as important now as they were back then, probably more so. And so it did a tremendous amount of work assisting federal government departments and agencies to look at new ways of using or universities or to create new incentives to get universities to change the way they look at and approach the preparation of scholars that are going to be, if you will, the engineers or the geologists that would be utilized to address natural resources, the poisons that are created by the mines, and so on. This nonprofit was temporarily put on hold. It's still on hold while I went on to work for Diné College and now with San Carlos Apache College. But it is active, and we hope that we can resurrect it to continue doing at least some of the really good thinking about how do we engage the philanthropists of the world in initiatives and agendas to help address some of the most complex issues facing our societies. Unique kind of nonprofit. I'm very proud that I was the architect of it and that I have been its primary leader throughout all of its existence. You'll see a picture on the far right. This is from Ghana. There's a gentleman sitting who's a priest. He is the chair of our board. That's Father Isaac Finn. He's from Ghana. He's a chaplain and a priest in Tucson, Arizona. But individuals like him have engaged the center in all kinds of really meaningful, relevant international work. On this particular slide, you will see a photo to the left, and then you see the cover of a newspaper article in the Navajo Times to the right. The photo to the left has the late Senator John McCain speaking with me. That's the back of my head and shoulders there, during a very important set of testimonies that were being given to the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. The article to the right really ties into that meeting, so they go together in many ways. What I was testifying about was really significant. Why? And because it was about renewing the Diné College Act, which was about to expire. One of the concerns I had in doing this was the great sense of hopelessness that some had that the Diné College Act would be renewed, in part because it was a unique piece of federal legislation from which Diné College benefited in preferential ways, if you will. It ensured that Diné College received funding for Indian student count at a rate that was higher than the rest of the TCUs in the country. It also provided significant funding for infrastructure. And so that was those that were against the renewal of this act took a position against it, in part because of the the way that Diné College was treated somewhat preferentially over the rest of the TCUs. And there were others who felt that the composition of the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs was of individuals who were not big fans of either Diné College or of standalone pieces of legislation like this one. What I did, and it took presentations with all the presidents of AHEC. We needed their endorsement of the AHEC organization to endorse moving forward and making presentations to Congress. I championed the renewal of the Diné College Act for one primary purpose, and that was the fact that it was a very significant treaty between the U.S. federal government and Diné College. And I did not want a treaty being dissolved. I am against having any treaty between any sovereign nation and the United States federal government from being dissolved. And I felt it was just too important to maintain that treaty alive for many reasons that all of you can probably intuit and appreciate. And so I just wanted to make sure that I shared with you one of the historic roles that I played during the time that I was the president of Diné College. I look back fondly at the great success that I had in championing the renewal of the Diné College Act and the unanimous support that I received from the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs in having that historic piece of legislation move forward successfully. The reason I wanted to show the picture to the left is because it first of all, it includes all the Navajos that I had in my cabinet, the VP, the Provost, the VP of Government Affairs, and some of the other individuals that were extraordinary. We were celebrating the completion of the master's degree in HR by our HR director, whom I served as a mentor. And I think you can see by the look on the faces of these individuals. You know, this was an exciting time. We were a team. We were carrying Diné through a difficult process of transformation and renewal, and that I think this picture captures, if you will, the tremendous amount of energy, expertise, intelligence, savvy, kindness, respect that the group that I had around me, or that I was able to bring together, not only as cabinet members but as an extended executive committee. I have even the first ever dean of the faculty to the far left, that is Dr. Lisa Yutzi, who followed me to San Carlos Apache College as the provost. And so I even had Cheryl Thompson, who was the VP of Finance and Administration at Diné, who came here and spent a good 8 to 9 months full-time helping to create an in-house budgeting system before returning to the Navajo Nation. It was a special favor that she did for me. I still maintain very good relationships with all these great leaders. On the right-hand side, you'll see a photo with Dr. Rita Chang, president of NEU, and myself. And Dr. Chad Hamill, of course, is in there, along with two of my regents, Greg Bigman and Teresa Hatafli, and our student body president, Aaron Lee, who's in the pink shirt. That is memorializing the MOA that we signed, which really enabled Diné College to benefit from the tremendous resources available to us in terms of their student advising, the library, and so on. Very well thought out, very valuable MOA. One of the many good experiences that I had as the president of Diné College. Along with this MOA, we also signed one with New Mexico Highlands University that did many good things, including helping Diné College to expand and improve its ITV system as for our distance education. I could not resist sharing these two photos with all of you for several reasons. On the far left, you'll see a photo of myself, and right behind me is my executive assistant, Ms. Celestina Kozin, or C-Ray, as she preferred to be called. Believe it or not, those two individuals in that photo were the only employees of San Carlos Apache College 3 years ago. I got hired on April 11th, 2017. And the only person that I had to work with me in building this college was this one individual. She was amazing. And she's from the Navajo Nation. And she and I worked together for several months, attempting to make some first hires, acquire facilities, set the stage to open doors. We were asked by the council to be offering classes. Can you imagine this? 4-credit classes by no later than August. That was just months away. I didn't have a single faculty member. I had no administrators and so on. And so that was the Herculean task that we had before us, which was to establish a college that could open doors within a few months. To the far right, on the right side, you'll see the photo of Kathleen Kichian. She is the head and professor of the college's Department of Apache Language and Culture. She is an amazing mentor and leader, a real spiritual leader, if you will, for all of us. She was the first and the only female chair of the San Carlos Apache Nation. She has served in many capacities in her career as a teacher, as a principal, as a head of different agencies. And we were very fortunate that someone with her fluency in the language and with her experience and her credibility in our tribe was willing to take on this important role of developing and overseeing the core department of the college. As you all know, with TCU's a core mission of ours is to perpetuate, to diffuse, to preserve the language and culture of the community. And so she has a very important role in fulfilling this central mission of our young TCU. It was not long before we opened doors that I was able to hire her. I was very fortunate that I had Dr. Lisa Yutzi, whom I stole from the Dene College and the Navajo Nation, to join me as the provost. And she quickly got to work in hiring at least, I think, 12 adjunct faculty. We hired 2 full-time faculty. The other one was the head of business, the business department at Dene College, so I ended up stealing him as well. And he's been with us ever since and has been serving as the head and chief faculty member of our business school. We were in the midst of refurbishing offices and negotiating space, trying to convince people to leave their area so we could take over it. It was not easy, but we found a way to open doors on August 17th. Just a very quick snapshot here of 3 very critical players. I already made reference to 2 of them. On the left was Medhat Farouk, whom if you will, I stole from Dene College. He had been the founder or architect of Dene's baccalaureate degree in business, architect and head of our own School of Business and Economic Studies, and doing a great job. He brings tremendous international experience. He had worked for a little over 8 years with Dene College, and so really good tribal college experience as well, plus outstanding experience working with other colleges and universities. In the middle is Dr. Lisa Yutzi, who's arguably the best provost that any TCU could possibly have. Was the dean of the faculty at Dene and really excelled in that role. She has just been fabulous in spearheading the recruitment of faculty, the development and approval of programs and courses, and charting the accreditation journey for us, which is arguably our biggest challenge at this time, is to ensure that we make prompt and successful progress in becoming an independently accredited institution. On the right is Kenneth Chan. He's our IT officer, graduate of Stanford, received his degree in computer science from Stanford, has earned his master's degree since he joined us in IT. I have never known anybody with his gifts when it comes to in IT, computer science, IT. Oh my Lord, he has probably done the work of 10 people in overseeing the needs, the IT needs of our institution and much more. And he has even spearheaded virtual commencement. He is really the architect, the brainchild of this virtual commencement of our college, and I hope all of you will be able to enjoy sometime soon. I just wanted to showcase 3 of the individuals that are part of the core team, a small team, but high caliber group of individuals that have joined me in the design, the development, the launching of this new institution of higher learning. You need to have people of this caliber to create an institution from scratch, and to be able to mobilize and energize people and develop the confidence and excitement from tribal leaders, from members of the community, from our partners around the country. And so I couldn't have a better group of people to be joining me in this quest of creating a very successful TCU for the Apache people. This is just, I wanted you to see our college's participation in the Veterans Parade, an event that is very dear to the San Carlos Apache Nation. It brings the entire community together. We participated in the 3 years we've been alive. You'll see our first one is on the left, and it's got me in the middle with 2 of the founding members of the board, Martha Interpreted Village to my left, Jonathan Clark to my right. They worked so hard. They did a lot as the founding regents of the college. On the right-hand side, you have myself looking crazy with that little hat, and then I have some of my staff and some of the new regents. Karen Neptune is to the far right with a white hat. Next to her is Dorina Thompson. She's the vice chair of our board. Roberta Patton is right next to her, another member of the board. And Lisa Yutzi and Rachel Kenton are right behind me. We take a lot of pride in the institution that we are creating. Humble beginnings, we're doing a lot with very little, but we're very proud of our work. We know how significant it is. We know that we're making history. More importantly, we know that we're involved in something that is so much greater than ourselves, by far greater than anything we could ever imagine, and that it eclipses us and whatever our time will be. And it's something that we know will eventually be a major catalyst for positive social change, economic development for the Apache people. So I wanted to make sure that I shared with all of you these beautiful snapshots, and we were well received. There's a lot of excitement throughout the San Carlos Apache tribe about what we're creating, the experiment, if you will, of creating for them their own college. And it's important that we take the long view and we look at where we're headed, not how little we have to work with at this time, but what we know will become of our efforts. You'll see that I've titled this slide, How Can and Must We Work Together? I know Dr. Carleta, Chief, thank you for having invited me to be part of this magnificent series, Native Voices in STEM, to reflect on my knowledge of, experience with the University of Arizona, and to be able to offer some of my own personal insights on how the Native American experience can be enhanced there, what could be done so that Native students and faculty will be better served in the years to come at the University of Arizona. As a founding president of San Carlos Apache College, I am very committed to pursuing special partnerships, not only with the University of Arizona, but ultimately with the other 2 universities as well, and in key fields, including teacher education, natural resources, indigenous public health, indigenous language revitalization, and the preservation and indigenous language revitalization and preservation, entrepreneurship, indigenous architecture, and STEM. Of course, it's so important that more is done to acknowledge and embrace indigenous concepts and traditions related to STEM. Science, knowledge, and traditions, native science and traditions, concepts go back millennia, outstanding. And so, I do believe that if we're going to have a real partnership, it has to be based on truly reciprocal relationships, in which the key differences between indigenous and Eurocentric epistemologies and pedagogies are understood and valued. Moreover, these relationships must draw upon the different theoretical and analytical lenses required for K-12 schools, for colleges and universities, and for researchers to make possible a better understanding of American Indian students and their right to self-education and sovereignty. I am therefore inviting the University of Arizona to work together with us in building and sustaining these very relationships. Only then can we work together to help the Apache Nation meet some of its most critical nation-building needs and opportunities. My dear friends, I come to the close of my presentation, and I cannot think of a better way to close it than by sharing with all of you one of my all-time favorite quotes that captures much of my feeling, thoughts, related to the work I have been doing for many, many years in Indian country with my Native American students, my colleagues, for tribal institutions of higher learning in different parts of the country. And I want you to follow along with me. I will read it. If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. Lila Watson. This quote captures the spirit of the partnership that I really want to have with the University of Arizona. We can and we must work together as equals. We have so much to gain from each other, so much to contribute to each other. It will be a win-win situation. I believe that we can forge a historic partnership between the University of Arizona and San Carlos Apache College. I look forward to it. I hope you will be part of that wonderful undertaking. My dear friends and colleagues, thank you for permitting me to share with you some of the milestones of my seemingly impossible career. I must say that I never imagined that I would be sharing it with anyone, and so it took a little bit of courage and a lot of pick-me-uppers, if you will, from good friends to begin talking about all that I've been through during my unique American journey. I know that for many of you, my sharing this with you is something you will carry forward and share with others, especially if you found in my journey some inspiration about hope, about the willpower, self-determination, just the gutsiness of saying, I will not give up, regardless of what odds I will encounter. I never imagined that I would be viewed as a role model, or be asked to be a role model, to be acknowledged as a role model. That was never an expectation of mine. I never imagined, but nowadays I see that somehow, some way, I forged myself into someone that others can look to as a role model. How humbling that is, how fulfilling. And so thank you for the opportunity to share with others what I hope will be a story of inspiration, one pointing to the great things they themselves can aspire to pursue and achieve, the great dreams that nobody has a right to deny them of, and the tremendous power of self-determination. We can do it. All of you can do it. Do not give up on whatever you want to achieve. Whatever dream you have, go for it, and don't let anybody define who you are not, what you cannot do, what you will never even get close to fulfilling. All the power resides within you. I think that my testimony should have revealed that to those of you that have been kindly listening to my journey, and that is that you never know where your career is going to take you. You never know what blessings will come your way. You have to be open to them. But most of all, you have to believe in yourself. You have to love yourself and believe in yourself, regardless of what the world around you might be saying. Thank you for the opportunity. God bless you.